Today I want to show you how to make the Belizean Creole bun again, but instead of the full recipe that I have in the cookbook, we're going to be doing the half recipe. You're watching the Bear Pantry Show. Okay, so I've pretty much done the math for you for this half recipe of the Creole bun. In the book it's called Barbara's Creole bun because Joanne and I worked really hard on this recipe for years. Of course, as you guys know, we don't know how to make heavy bun or hard buns. We've worked for years to make it light so we can appeal to all the audiences. So right here, what I'm going to add is half a cup of the warm water instead of a full cup. And at some point, I'm going to turn the camera on my book to show you exactly what all we're putting in this bun to half the recipe, because I do realize that sometimes halving a recipe is not as easy as it would sound. So I put 1 pack of yeast, or it would be the equivalent of 1 tablespoon right here if you didn't have it in the pack. And then of course I'm going to use half of a teaspoon of sugar. So let me get half. And that's just to let the yeast rise, okay? So in the meanwhile, we're going to set this aside for 15 minutes to let it rise. But in the meanwhile, let me show you what else we have. We have our flour. And instead of 9 3/4 cups to make 4 or 5 loaves, we're going to use 4 3/4 cups of flour. And then we're going to use 3/4 cups of sugar, plain white sugar. I know some people make it with brown sugar. I tried it a couple of times with brown sugar, did not like it. You know, to each his own when it comes to this. Let me set this aside to show you how I did the 3/4 cup. This is a half cup and this is a 1/4 cup. The red one's a 1/4 cup. And so that's how I did my 3/4 cup, all right? So if you don't have a measuring cup, don't worry about it. So I'm putting all my dry ingredients together, as you notice, while my yeast is sitting there to rise for 15 minutes. Might be less than 15 minutes, but here's the baking powder, and that's 2 teaspoons rather than 4 from the original recipe. Now the butter, right here is the trick, because the butter calls for a 1/3 cup. Now how do you actually half a 1/3 cup of butter, right? So I had to go do the math and figure it out. And actually, to half a 1/3 cup of butter, you're going to use 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons. So that's what that is. And so let me show you my measuring utensils. I always want to factor in that not everybody understands, you know, measuring and cooking and so on. So this one's a tablespoon, this one's a teaspoon. So I measured this twice and I measured this twice. You know, don't feel like you're silly because you're measuring things twice to try to get what you need. My last powdered ingredient here is cinnamon, and instead of a half a teaspoon, I'm using a 1/4. That's more than enough for the bun. I'm not going to put raisins because I know that Jory already told me he wanted to eat some tomorrow morning for breakfast, so I wish he hadn't told me that because I would have put the raisins for sure. I'm going to put vanilla extract, but I'm not going to put it yet until my yeast is ready. Then we'll go ahead and just drop a little bit in there. And in the meanwhile, in the microwave, I have nuked half a can of the coconut milk. So we're not going to use the whole can, we're going to use half a can. And we're going to use less water too. So as far as the water go, so far I think it's going to be 4 ounces, but I'm going to confirm that when we get to it, okay? So let's wait for 15 minutes till our wonderful yeast rises. See it right here? It's fresh too because it's already rising, as you can see. So I'm just going to, and that's what, you know, there's a lot of downtime when you're making bread or buns and stuff like that. Anything with yeast, there's a lot of non-cooking time that you're just sitting there waiting. So I'm going to be back in about 10 minutes, and then we're going to knead our bun, and we're going to set it to rise for the first time around. So like I told you guys, I'm not going to measure that. Just a little bit of the vanilla essence or extract. The yeast has risen. Pour it in there. Like I said, I'm not going to put any raisins because the kids hate that. And Joshua has asked me before, why don't I make like steak buns or something and put steak inside of these buns, or filet mignon buns, because these buns are so good. So one of these days, we're going to make cheese bun one of these days. So this is the half a can of coconut milk. And remember, we're going to need some water, like 4 ounces. So I'm going to let you know when we get to that point. I'm just going to go ahead and knead this. And this is not actually kneading it, this is mixing. Just going to working in the moisture in the dry mixture. And at one point we're going to dump it out of here and then knead it. And I took off my ring and put it up safely because the last time when I did that, I lost my ring when I didn't put it up safely. So let me get 4 ounces of water, and then when I come back, we're going to be adding it to the dough. Okay, so here we are. I've added some of the water already. We don't want to add this too fast because we don't want the dough to get too sticky. We're not making cookie, remember, we're making like a sweet bread. We call it Creole bun in Belize, and I put actually a little bit more than 4 ounces because I didn't want to go back to the sink. So it's right at about 4 ounces that you're going to need. If you find that you need a little bit more moisture, don't panic. It just means that you kind of over measured your flour, okay? Because sometimes that happens in baking. So I don't want it to get too sticky. What I'm going to do is just put a little bit of flour on this counter and get it all worked in. So let me get some flour and get my hands cleaned off, all right? So here we go. You want to put this, and in Belize they have a kneading bowl that you do this on. You always want it on a floured countertop, and you just kind of rough it up. This is what kneading really is. That's what I call it. You're supposed to be squeezing air bubbles out of it and getting it mixed well and all that stuff, but I call it rough it up. It's kind of like a massage for the dough, and as you guys can see, this is way less dough than when we made Creole buns before. So this is actually only going to give us like a huge loaf or 2 medium size type loaves. This is for people who are single, or it's only 2 people living together and they want to make bun, but they don't want to make that recipe that I have. That recipe that I have is actually 2.5 pounds of flour. It's called 9 3/4 cups. And you get 5 loaves out of that. So if you do it, you kind of want to give some away. So here it's done. Put it back in the same messy thing. Don't even wash it. I put it in the oven with the oven not being on, only because I want to get it away from draft and from light, because I want it to rise. So it's going to take not even an hour, because this is a small amount. Then we're going to reknead it, get our 2 loaves, then set it to rise again. Okay, so remember I told you I would zoom in on the book and show you my half recipe. So this is my full recipe that gives you 2.5 pounds of bun. And right here in the pencil marking is my half recipe that I told you guys. So it's actually 4 3/4 cup of flour, all-purpose flour, half cup of warm water, half teaspoon of sugar, and 1 pack of yeast actually is what you need to put together to rise the yeast. And then inside the dough, you continue to put 4 ounces of warm water, 3/4 cups of sugar, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon, 2 tablespoons plus 2 teaspoons of butter, 1/4 teaspoon of vanilla extract. You saw I just kind of dropped some in there, and half of the can of coconut milk. And that's all you do to half the recipe, okay? So it took right about 45 minutes. Could have actually gone to an hour or 2. Here's our dough all ready for us. It's nice and soft and spongy. And you know, when you read recipe books and they talk about dough, they'll say punch it down. You don't have to punch it down. You're just gonna squeeze it and you kind of reknead. Want to get it all worked in again, because all we're gonna do is cut it straight in half. We're gonna go ahead and knead up these 2 pieces of dough to make 2 loaves of our bun. It's as simple as that. You know, guys, there's a lot of people who hate kneading, but I love kneading dough because it feels so therapeutic. It feels like you're massaging something, right? But this is all it is. Did you guys notice how I did that? I did it kind of fast. See, this is the bottom, and I just kind of pinched it all together. And then I kind of rolled it on the counter to make the bottom come smooth, because the top's already smooth, right? And then remember this bone that I tell you about? This is the bone when it starts looking protruding, you're malnourished. So I call it Tylene's dimple, because my mom, Aunt Tylene, used to put that little hole right there in it. Tylene's dimple. And so I put it on a greased baking sheet. Show you that in a minute. So let's see what I do with this one again, okay? Because I'm so good at doing it, because I've been doing it for so many years, that I think sometimes I go a little bit too fast. And I don't want you guys to miss anything. So all I've been doing is kind of working it around to make the top. That's going to be the top now. I want the top to be smooth. So now look at the bottom. That's all kind of nasty trying to come together, right? So you just kind of want to pinch it. Pinch it in, so you're closing it off on the bottom. So no, that's not your top, that's your bottom. Flip it over on the counter, and if you have anything sticky going on, you need to put some flour on it, but this is not sticky. And you're just gonna work it. This is all I'm doing. Kind of working it so the bottom can become smooth. And then we put Tylene's dimple. I miss my Aunt Tylene. She died at age 98 on Christmas Eve 2004. Such an awesome, awesome, awesome lady. So here we have 2 loaves. We're going to give it another hour to rise. And then we're going to bake it for about 30-35 minutes. So when I come back, I'll show you the finished product, okay? It would have been done baking, because you know how it's going to look like in an hour. So here, I'm putting it in the oven again away from draft, all right? Now, as I'm waiting for the buns to get through baking, I want to remind you that this is the same recipe that you would use to make your hot cross buns. The only difference is that you would leave a piece of the dough off to make the cross on top of the buns, all right? Okay, so here they are, our beautiful Creole buns. 2 loaves exactly from the recipe. And remember, nothing really changed about the recipe except that I halved it. And basically, I just wanted to show you. I have it glazed already with the sugar on top. You know, if you guys want to see how to do all that, go watch the other bun video. But this, I just wanted to show you 2 loaves. Aren't they beautiful? You know, when I used to sell these back in the 1980s, I would sell a bun for like, I think it was like $3. But now with recession, I think I'll raise the price to $4. Anybody wants to buy some bun? Some Belizean bun, some Creole bun? Take a look, see? Aren't they just gorgeous? So there you go. I hope this helps. I do realize that some people don't live with a big family anymore. Sometimes it's just a couple or maybe a single person. And I want you guys to be able to enjoy the breads and the buns. And so I don't want you to have to make a full recipe, especially if you don't have anybody to give it away to. So this is the half recipe of the bun. In the future, we'll do the half recipe of the Creole bread. But for right now, I wanted to get this out to you. I hope you enjoy. Thanks so much for watching. And until I see you again, take care.